When I faced these tyrannical leaders, if you will, there were no rights. I was stripped of all due process. I was even stripped of my defense in a court of law, an American court of law.
Fox News is scraping the bottom of the barrel and reaching for, well, anything to slow the momentum of the Harris-Walz campaign, as it's gained a lot of traction since the ticket was first announced.
His policies destroy the American people's rights, the Minnesotans' rights, to be specific. He destroyed so many businesses in the state of Minnesota, never to open again. He destroyed so many lives in Minnesota, literally. The man is a criminal, and he should be impeached, and he should be prosecuted.
Wow. Well, that's it's really tough language. We hope to get him on, and we'll ask some questions about this.
To believe Tim Walz is to blame for destroying people's rights by simply following and enforcing COVID lockdown policies is representative of sheer entitlement, not a care for the well-being of others or how an individual's actions might impact their lives, their neighbors' lives. Now, in case you haven't heard about this yet, meet Lisa Hansen. She wants to impeach and prosecute the governor.
It is now law.
But you've legalized recreational marijuana, you passed universal background checks on guns, you expanded LGBTQ protections, you implemented tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans. There's free breakfast and lunch for school kids. Do you think your record is an asset to the ticket, or would it risk fueling Trump's attacks as you being a big government liberal?
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn. And women are making their own health care decisions. And we're a top 5 business state.
You know, you can tell a lot about people in their personal lives. He spent a decade stiffing service workers from dishwashers, waiters, and carpenters on his own properties to enrich himself. As president, he cut overtime benefits for millions of workers, and he opposed any effort to raise the minimum wage. That's all you need to know. You don't have to ask twice. We know who they are. It's not what they've done that we should be concerned with here today. It's what they're going to do. One of the clear goals of that Project 2025 to-do list is to put the screws to working people, making it harder for us to collectively bargain, allowing employers to drastically cut overtime or even eliminate it. And make no mistake about this, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance want to eliminate AFSCME and all public sector unions altogether. He sits there and tells his friends, you're rich as hell and we're going to cut your taxes. I believe him when he says that. But he also turns around and tells workers their wages are too high. I keep bringing this up. Who do you know who's asking to cut taxes on billionaires while stiffing working people? I don't know anybody. And I'll tell you what, I think there's a lot of people think that they're on his side or voting for him, that when you put it to them like that, they start thinking things differently.
I had students that I taught in the classroom, coached on the football field, trained in my guard unit, and they went off to Iraq to fight for this nation. They went off to Afghanistan to fight for this nation. Not once in my career did the question of sexual orientation ever come up. It's time to erase this this mistake for our security and for Americans, and I'll be with you every step of the way.
When I was teaching at Mankato West, a group of students asked if I'd be willing to help them start the school's first gay-straight alliance. They were concerned about anti-LGBTQ bullying, and they wanted to do something about it. My answer was absolutely. We've made Minnesota a more welcoming place by outlawing conversion therapy for LGBTQ youth and protecting trans Minnesotans. We're not spending our time and energy and political capital picking fights with beer companies and librarians. We're putting bullies in their place, sending the clear message that the LGBT community is very much a part of the fabric of our state.
Look, we don't know as of now how the official Harris-Walz campaign platform will shape up. But when it comes to destroying people's rights, Walz has only expanded the rights of other groups of people that deserve equality, such as the broader LGBTQ plus community, the trans community, service members, school children who don't have the security and privilege of having multiple meals in a day. You can be critical of Walz's initial COVID response policies and sue the state all you want. That's your right as an American. And it's also our right to call out and explain why your anger is directed at the wrong person. Hansen should be mad at Donald Trump for lying about the existence of the virus, lying about having it under control, taking far too long to set up the infrastructure to test and contain the spread, and of course, waiting far too long to administer the first set of lockdowns to businesses, schools, and other public areas. MAGA folks are masters at deflecting away any sort of valid criticism about Donald Trump, and instead resorting to the most convenient and often the most marginalized targets to pin the blame on. While Walz certainly isn't a member of a marginalized group, convicted felon Roger Stone is going to try to use Walz's allyship with the LGBTQ+ community against him.
She was selected as the nominee for president. Even not a single Democrat in the country voted for in any primary or any caucus. And now she's picked this guy, Tim Walz. Saw him at a rally. I mean, I hate to quote Mel Brooks in Blazing Saddles, but he was jumping around like a Kansas City. This guy is really, really weird. So there's a lot to digest there.
The Republican Party is fueled by a paradoxical victim complex. On the one hand, they posture as the victims of some non-existent oppression, when in reality, they can get away with saying slurs and really any other unhinged thought that comes to mind, which only proves that they hold a unique position of power in our country. Still, we'll just keep reminding them, you're not a victim. You're actually the problem.
Well, I have nothing to do with it. I had no idea what it was. A group of people got together. They drew up some conservative values, very conservative values.
On Fox News, Donald Trump tried to distance himself from the controversial MAGA mandate for leadership and governing known as Project 2025.
In some case, perhaps they went over the line. Perhaps they didn't. I have no idea what Project 25 is.
But that's not true. According to Project 2025 leaders, including one who was surreptitiously recorded recently saying their plan for a possible Trump transition is the only plan.
There's no think tank, no policy organization, no battle plan creator other than us for the worldview that I think Donald Trump has and that JD has.
That Trump worldview, as articulated by Project 2025, includes firing 50,000 government workers, replacing them with Donald Trump loyalists, eliminating the Department of Education, taking partisan control of the FBI and Justice Department, stripping away LGBTQ+ rights, reducing environmental regulations, favoring fossil fuels, and giving tax cuts to the rich. Much of this and more would be done through executive orders. The plan also calls for infusing government and society with conservative Christian values. And if anybody complains, the military would be authorized by a President Trump to shoot protesters. Project 2025, as you might imagine, polls horribly. So Democrats have repeatedly linked it to Donald Trump, agitating him.
This line of attack about Project 2025 is really getting under the former president's skin, and also really frustrating that of his campaign. They have sought for months to distance themselves from this project, even though we know that many of Donald Trump's top allies and even people who are advising his current campaign are involved in drafting that actual blueprint for a transition. And so this is something that is really bothering Trump.
At the Democratic convention, the attacks were nonstop and even featured comedians.
You ever seen a document that could kill a small animal and democracy at the same time?
I hate that.
On page 584, Project 2025 calls for the elimination of protections for LGBTQ plus Americans. On page 465, Project 2025 calls for millions of people like yourself to pay more for prescription drugs like insulin. On page 459, Project 2025 resurrects a law from the 1800s called the Comstock Act to ban abortion nationwide and throw healthcare providers in jail.
Kamala Harris's running mate, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, singled out Project 2025 during his vice presidential nomination acceptance speech and trashed Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
Their Project 2025 will make things much, much harder for people
who are just trying to live their lives. They spent a lot of time pretending they know nothing about this. But look, I coached high school football long enough to know, and trust me on this, when somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they're going to use it. And we know if these guys get back in the White House, they'll start jacking up the costs on the middle class. They'll repeal the Affordable Care Act. They'll gut Social Security and Medicare. And they will ban abortion across this country, with or without Congress. Here's the thing. It's an agenda nobody asked for. It's an agenda that serves nobody except the richest and the most extreme amongst us. And it's an agenda that does nothing for our neighbors in need. Is it weird? Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's also wrong. And it's dangerous.
The danger, Democrats say, is not just in Project 2025. Former President Bill Clinton blasted Donald Trump's economic policies and noted that Republican administrations have a record of killing jobs and Democrats create them.
You're going to have a hard time believing this, but so help me, I triple-checked it. Since the end of the Cold War in 1989, America has created about 51 million new jobs. I swear I checked this 3 times. Even I couldn't believe it. What's the score? Democrats 50, Republicans 1.
The implicit message is that another Trump administration would hurt the economy and a Harris administration would help it. The effort to frighten voters about another Trump administration is also now on the airwaves. The Lincoln Project just released this ad highlighting the people who might serve in the next Trump cabinet.
A second term for Donald Trump. What will it look like? Secretary of State Jared Kushner.
Jared Kushner and Ivanka Kushner walk out of the White House and months later get $2 billion from the Saudis.
Homeland Security Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I think your fake eyelashes are messing up.
Justice Department Alina Habba.
This is where your taxpayer dollars are going, America.
FBI Director Jim Jordan.
That's as radical as you can get.
White House Press Secretary Laura Loomer.
Trespassing Nancy Pelosi's private residence.
Give me some money to fund my lawsuits.
HHS Secretary Matt Gaetz.
The House Ethics Committee has released a statement into a number of serious allegations, including sexual misconduct.
Elon Musk for whatever he wants.
Go yourself.
No wonder Trump says,
you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
Negative ads generally don't bring new voters into an election campaign. Instead, the attack ads tend to suppress voter turnout. They dampen enthusiasm for the ad's target. So in frightening voters about who Donald Trump might bring to the White House and what kind of policies Trump and his associates may carry out, the goal is to diminish Trump's support. And if that means some Americans become disgusted or scared of Trump and don't vote for him or don't vote at all, that helps the margins for Democrats. To be clear, negative ads and scare tactics over Project 2025 are not enough for the Harris campaign. The Democrats still need to get voters excited about the positives and future under a Harris administration. However, attack ads and negativity do have an impact. And by all accounts, the fears over Project 2025 are breaking through, which is why Donald Trump is getting increasingly anxious over the Project 2025 attacks. By the way, Republicans are now claiming, with help from Fox News, that Tim Walz is carrying water for the government of China.
When you go to China, they surveil you. If an American goes to China 30 times in the 90s, they have surveillance footage of him.
It's very serious. China thinks long term. It's very possible that China would be grooming an up-and-coming rising star in the political process to try to have a foothold in our government.
Except that Tim Walz was a teacher at the time and did not seek political office for 12 years. So the math doesn't add up. This video generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from user RM, who wrote, $788 million in fines, and they, Fox News, are still lying. Yep. I look forward to reading your comments about an increasingly anxious Donald Trump telling voters he knows nothing about Project 2025 as the Democratic attacks on the plan and Trump keep landing.